we ready, Charles? Good morning, those of you who are logging on to METRON this morning. We're glad to have you. It finally feels a little bit like winter this morning. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We did, and I guess the holidays are officially on now. Seems impossible to believe. I got to quit saying this because it's kind of a sign of aging, but I can't believe. You know, when you were a kid, it seems like Christmas took forever. When will it get here? And now it's like we just took that stuff down. Is it time to put that up again? And I thought, well, it's here. You might as well get in it because there's no point in complaining about it because you'll blink and it'll be over with. So, like, all right, well then I guess it's Christmas. It's the most wonderful time, and it is. Anyway, glad you guys are here, and those of you who have logged on. A couple people asked. Avery put the word ITB on the. It means in the building. A lot of people don't know what that means. Somebody asked me, "Does it mean in the buff?" I said, "No, we're planning on. We are planning on coming clothed." But thanks for asking. We acknowledge the presence of God in this place. Spirit of God, we're always in your presence. We're always in God. We came out of God. We're a part of God. We're moving back toward God. God is being revealed in us and through us. We're seeing not through a glass darkly, but in a mirror dimly. And as we continue to evolve and progress, we are seeing the reflection of God. We recognize our divinity revealed to us through Jesus, who we celebrate in this season. Also know that where two or more are gathered together in his name, there is a manifestation of the Christ. So while we are always in the presence of God, on days like today, we are more cognitively aware of it. We are aware of being in the presence of God. Holy Spirit, we thank you for the flow this morning. We thank you for the anointing. We thank you for the wind of the Spirit. We thank you that every time we come together, it is a Mount of Transfiguration. It is an upper room. It is all of those symbolic types and shadows and figures. All of those things are manifested in our presence. It is the tabernacle. It is the secret place of the Most High. We thank you for doing something in us and through us and with us today that is unprecedented. And everybody said, amen. Please remain standing. Let's do the Lord's Prayer, if we can, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, presence of divine love and light that lives within us and within all of life, hallowed be thy name. We invoke the powerful, creative nature of all that is sacred and holy. Thy kingdom come. We embrace the healing essence that is the kingdom of heaven within us. Thy will be done. We accept our greatest good as we align with our divine nature, on earth as it is in heaven, knowing that the affairs of our lives reflect our evolving consciousness. Give us this day our daily bread. Each day we receive great blessings from within and throughout all the activities of our lives. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We accept the divine nature of all things and all people, including ourselves, as we move away from judgment and toward greater awareness of divine presence. And lead us not into temptation. We shall be vigilant in expressing and experiencing the oneness with all life. But deliver us from evil, as we are learning to live without fault-finding and suffering. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. For we accept the consciousness of divine perfection with all its power and glory right here, right now, and forever. Amen, and so it is. Tell the person next to you, do you realize how blessed you are to get to sit next to me today? I just hope you can count your blessings, and then you may be seated. Amen. And you may be seated. And you can be seated. I can't, my eyes have changed so much I can't decide. I'm doing this constantly. Next Sunday, I should be able to see you, at least with this eye. I'm having this eye done this coming Friday. So I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I guess I'm going to go with... let me give you a couple of announcements. We're doing Christmas here this year, right here. Christmas Eve is on Sunday morning. So what we're going to do, we're just going to stay a little bit longer. I mean, you don't have to stay till 3, but I mean, I've got this time blocked off. And what we're going to do I was going to have it catered. And everything this year feels like less is more. That just seems like I don't know if it's just this year, but if it's too complicated, I just don't want to do it right now. Is that just me? I shouldn't even tell y'all this, but the reason we got our tree decorated so fast is it came that way. It's actually already, it's like LED lights on it. And when we saw it, we both looked at it. We said, so you wouldn't have to decorate it? And we're like, and we have a winner. Like everybody's like, how did you get it decorated so quick? Like, well, God is good. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just like I just want things to be easy right now. So what we're going to do, next week we'll have a sign-up sheet for this. I just want you, if you're coming Christmas Eve, because most people do their family stuff like later in the day on Christmas Eve. So you should, it is Jesus' birthday. Could y'all just spend a little time on Jesus? But I'm just going to have everybody bring some like party food. Anything that doesn't have to be dipped. It's something that's just easy, finger food. We'll set it up. We're going to bring chairs down here. We're going to have music. You never know who's going to sing. I've got to call into Mariah Carey. I'm not sure. She's not sure she can work it out, but that is a plan. Look at y'all. You're like, that sounds about right. I was joking one time. I was making a joke one time, and I said, I talked to Oprah last week, and I was just going on about it, and you can't believe how many people are like, oh, my God, that is so great. I'm like, no, I was joking. I don't know Oprah. But anyway, so that's what we're going to do. I actually am looking forward to it. We've done it up big for so many years. This year, who knows, next year we may be back on, but this year it's going to be more like a family Christmas. And then the following week is December 31st, and I'm having Chelsea Shagg's going to come back. We're going to do a sound bath. I think that's kind of symbolic to do it at the end of the year and preparing for the new year. So she's going to be here at 11 a.m. on the 24th and the 31st. No, we're doing Christmas on the 24th. She's going to be on the 31st, the following week. That's right. And then we have Meditation Weekend number 21 is coming up in Chattanooga. I think this is maybe the third time we've gone to Chattanooga. And they've always been wonderful when we go there. So I've got it on my cover picture on my Facebook page. If you want to go, all the information is there. And most everybody knows the drill on this now, so y'all know what to do. And our last one in LJ was really, really good. I'm super happy with the way that one turned out. I don't know. I'm not sure if we'll go back to LJ, but it might have been a one-off. I don't know, but it was, at least for what it was really good. Chattanooga's always on the list. That's just always a great place to go. And so we will be there January 20th and 21st. So if you will keep those things in mind, I would appreciate it. All right? Are you all ready for the word? Y'all are funny. Okay, are we ready for the podcast, Charles? Okay. Welcome to the METRON Live podcast, coming to you from somewhere. We're somewhere in Atlanta. There's a place for us somewhere. Yeah, we're here. METRON people, would you give the podcast people a big hand? Welcome, welcome, welcome. As always, thank you, Charles McFall, Rock God of Podcasting. We appreciate it. And I'm still not doing a series, but I do have a word for you today. So I speak into this atmosphere and I say, "Let there be light." My title today is "Manifesting Abundance: Tuning into the Flow of Affluence, Even in the Desert." And let me tell you why I'm talking about this and where I'm coming from. And I'll use this as my first point. Very famous Wayne Dyer quote, if you'll give me that, Michelle, number one. Dr. Wayne Dyer says, "Abundance is not something we acquire, it is something we tune into." That really resonates with me. No matter what your theology is, I mean, I know all the prosperity scriptures, 3 John 2, and I wish above all things that you prosper and are in health, even as your soul prospers. And I may have even used, I can't remember if that's in the outline today or not. But so many scriptures about prosperity and abundance and that sort of thing. What I want to draw your attention to today is that living in abundance is the natural order of things. Like, you weren't put here to suffer poverty and lack and want. When David said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," the better translation is, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. I have everything I need." And, we've talked about this for years. The definition of prosperity, godly prosperity, is not just so you can get a nicer car and a bigger TV and, better clothes. It's so that you can be a blessing to humanity. That's the point of the prosperity. I mean, even just yesterday, we went to, I don't know what we were thinking, but we went to Lenox Square on Black Friday weekend. And there couldn't have been anybody else on the road anywhere because they were all at Lenox Square. The entire population of Atlanta apparently was there. But even just walking through the mall, there's so many things that I see in store windows and immediately think, "Oh, that would really look good on so-and-so," or "I'd love to be able to get that for one of my granddaughters." My first instinct is, how could I bless somebody with that? And that's when you know, not that you don't deserve nice things yourself, but it's like the bigger picture is, how could I help other people? I said this to you years ago, and it's come back to me a lot over the years. One day I was teaching, and I said, "Let me tell you the purpose of prosperity. It is so that I could come to you on any given Sunday and say, 'Hey, listen, there's this family over here that got burned out, their house burned down, and they lost everything. Their Christmas presents all burned up. The kids don't have any clothes.' And any one of you could stand up and say, 'I got this,' even to the point that you'd be so prospered that you'd be arguing over it. Like, Fred could stand and say, 'I got this one,' and Larry says, 'No, you got the last one. We're getting this.' And no, I'm getting this. No, you got that family from Uganda that moved over here." That's where we should all be. Not just worrying how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to buy Christmas this year, but how could I be a blessing to humanity? I love when Paul said to the Corinthians that God provides bread for the eater and seed for the sower. In other words, you'll have enough not just to eat, but to sow. And the whole concept of, you've seen some of the teachings that when people have used, why are words escaping me today? Like visual effects. And like I've seen where somebody will take a piece of fruit and they'll cut it up and show you the seeds that are in it, and they'll say, you could eat this and it would be done. Or like there's potentially X amount of apple trees in an apple if you plant those seeds. I don't know if you've ever read those statistics, but there's nothing wrong with eating an apple, but it's not going to produce after its own kind. You could take those seeds and plant it, and then those trees could grow up and they could be planted, and so on and so on. And so that's the whole concept of that we should be aspiring toward is, how can I have an abundance mentality? All right. Now, the reason I use the word flow today, I'm going to show you this verse of Scripture in two different translations. This is Proverbs 4:23. In the King James, it says, out of the heart are the issues of life. Now, in Elizabethan English, issue meant like a flow, like the woman with the issue of blood had a flow of blood. And so issue literally means a river, okay? And in the NIV, New International Version, it says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. It's talking about living from the inside out as opposed to living from the outside in. And what I want, this is not a teaching on tithing. This is not a teaching on giving. This is not even technically a teaching on prosperity. This is where I want you to put your attention today. Everybody needs a financial miracle. Like, I guarantee you could walk into just about any audience and say, I've got a word from God. There's somebody here with a financial need. You'd be like, oh my God, how did he know? And because it would be applicable to everybody. You know, Scripture says, despise not prophesying. I'm not against words of knowledge, but there's some sort of generic words of knowledge that would be appropriate for anybody. Like I could walk up to you and say, sister, do you sometimes feel discouraged? And you're like, oh my God, this guy's good. Sir, let me ask you, sometimes when you've worked really hard, do you feel tired? Like, oh my God. How does he know these things? Because that's just true for everybody. It's like they did an experiment at either Harvard or Yale or one of these where they were, and I'm not against astrology at all. I just thought this was interesting. They did a sort of an experiment where they said, write down your astrological sign, and we're going to tell you what is the character traits of that sign. And so they passed them out to the students, and they said, was yours accurate? And everybody, whether they were Aries or Libra or Capricorn, everybody was like, this is uncanny. I mean, they read me like a book. That is totally me. And come to find out, everybody had been given the exact same thing. So the thing is there's just some things that at certain times we've all been through. That's why you even got to watch those public service announcements about diseases, because they can tell you a lot of symptoms, and you've got about half of them, because everybody has half of them, right? You know, do you notice when you eat salty food, are you thirsty? You're like, you know what? I am. So do you get cold in the winter? I do. I need to call 911. When you walk up and down stairs all day, do your knees feel tired? Like, now you're scaring me. Why? Because that happens to everybody. So everybody could use a financial miracle. I mean, I think, what if I said, sir, back in the back, have I ever met you before? I have been to some meetings where people gave me words that just were not. I was at some big thing I'd led worship for. The guy, I just did not flow with this guy at all. Something about him I just didn't like. And when I got through with my part of the service, I'm sitting on the front row, and he comes up to me and he said, I've got a word for you. And I already felt like, I was like, don't give me a word. And everything he was saying was completely not relevant to me. He said, you have a stomach issue, don't you? And I'm like, I didn't want to embarrass him, but I don't. I mean, I've had issues with just about everything else, but my stomach's fine. And he was like mentioning several things. On every one of them, he was just wrong. And I was like, move on to somebody else. I'm not trying to embarrass him, but that was not one of mine. I know what it's like to go. Like I remember years ago, we were in Tulsa, and I did something to my back. I mean, I pulled it, and it was really painful. And I heard that Benny Hinn was in a meeting. So I remember that's what Debbie and I were together. I said, you know what? I want to go to this Benny Hinn meeting. I'm getting my back healed. So I'm literally walking in like this, and he called out every rare disease I've never heard. Back's I could pretty much say, does anybody here ever have back pain? And that would probably be applicable to everybody. I mean, if we all have back stuff. He didn't call. I was really trying to prime the pup. I was like entering to worship big time, Then sings my soul. I'm like singing, and I'm like, never got it. He was like, there's somebody here has a rare Tasmanian, like this has never been diagnosed before. And I'm like, back, Benny, say the back. It's an easy one. It'll apply to just pretty much half the people in here at least. Never said back. I walked out of there like, well, my money back I gave in the offering tonight. That came in planting the seed for a back miracle. I had to find the miracle was I found a chiropractor in Tulsa that could. There you were. But having said that, why is that a case with all of us? If you say, well, why would we all need some financial intervention? No matter how good you're doing, you could always, yeah, that'd be great if I had more, if that was paid off, or whatever. And where I want to direct our attention today is, first of all, the universe is abundant. There's enough for everybody. You've heard some of these statistics. I'm not going to try to quote any of them because some of them are conflicting, but they keep doing these statistics that if all the wealth in the world was divided up equally, how much everybody would have, and it's staggering. I mean, it's like everybody on the planet would be millionaires, if not billionaires, because the way it's the issues with distribution. And I'm not trying to make some point about communism or something. I mean, I believe in free enterprise and capitalism and all that sort of thing. What I want to say, wherever you are politically or theologically, the point is there is a river of abundance that is flowing at all times. And instead of trying to believe for a financial miracle, what I want to encourage you to do is remove the obstructions from the natural flow of abundance. Y'all with me? The next translation, this is out of the Amplified Classic, Proverbs 4:23. It says, keep and guard your heart with all vigilance, and above all that you guard, for out of it flow the springs of life. Out of your heart flows the abundance that you need. The abundance is not coming from, everybody should work. I totally respect work. But if you think that your place of employment is your only source of supply, you may not have a balanced view of abundance. Your paycheck is just part of the whole thing. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but it's happened to me a lot. When a regular check that I'm expecting gets held up for whatever reason, and I start getting tunnel vision about that, everything would be fine if I just got that check that I was supposed to get. And then when you don't get that check, it sort of forces you to redirect your focus. Like maybe there are other avenues of abundance than just the regular, I go in and work and do X amount of hours doing this thing and I get this money back in exchange. Michelle, this wasn't, I said I might refer to this. Go ahead and put that meme up from Isaiah 43. because I like the way this looks. I want to go ahead and bury the lead and give you this early on. This is Isaiah 43:19. And it's where God says, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland. I like this because in the my title says, tapping into the flow of abundance even in the desert. I'm going to refer to this in a minute, but let me go ahead and show you the next thing I want to show you. This is the definition of affluence. Let me show you. This is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. This says, affluence comes from the Latin verb affluere, which means to flow abundantly. Thus, someone or something blessed with affluence has received an incoming flow of riches. The word affluent literally means a tributary stream, and a tributary is a stream feeding a larger stream or a lake. So it's actually a term for a part of a river. When you say that's an affluent right there, it means it's a stream. It's an offspring from the main river that's flowing to another body of water. So the word affluent literally means affluent. Like it means I'm in the flow. I am not obstructing the flow. I'm finding where the river is. When you go to Isaiah 43 and the promise is, behold, I'm doing a new thing, shall you not know it or shall you not perceive it? The implication is there's a flow of abundance that you can channel that isn't necessarily going to come from expected places. I'm doing a new thing. Can you not perceive it? The money may be being held up because you have the money that you thought you were getting may be held up because you have tunnel vision about that money. I remember counseling with this couple years ago. I don't think any of you could connect the dots on this. But when I finally got to the crux of their issue, because they were about to split up. It was one of them had invested money in, it was like something around 30 grand. They had invested, it must have been like their nest egg. And it had just like ruined their marriage. They were about to split up over it. And when we would talk, the conversation kept going back to, we have financial problems because, I don't remember if it was he or she, but who did it. But everything had become, I could tell they had this argument a lot. Does that ring a bell with anybody? Have you ever had one of those arguments in a relationship so many times that you want to say, let's just print this out. Because here's the time where I say this and you say that and I say this. It's like, like here's your cue and go. Here's the part where you say that. That's why if you've had the same argument with a significant other 4 or 5 times, you need to see a counselor or something. You got to introduce some new energy, because all you're doing is going around Sinai. I say this, you say this, I say this, and cue the pouting. Now I pout and don't talk to you for the next 48 hours. That's the way we roll, right? That's what we do. That's our thing. And that's not always productive, when you're used to, I say this, they say this, and like there has to be new information introduced. And so with this couple, and we've been sitting there for, it seemed like forever, and they kept talking about this money. And at a certain point, I just slammed my desk and said, stop talking about the money. Y'all have got to get a bigger picture. There's other money. I mean, however much it was, that is a lot of money, but it's not all the money in the world. And if your whole financial future was dependent on that amount of money, it seems like you already had issues. If you think everything would have been fine if it hadn't been for that money, then you need to rethink. You need to pan that camera out and see a bigger picture. Because what you've done is you've made an idol out of that amount of money. And this person can't ever get forgiveness for it because they did something. It actually, I actually thought of it the other night because I don't know if y'all know who Albert Brooks is, but I love him. He made a movie years ago called Coming to America, and he had seen the movie Easy Rider, where the guys were going across country on a motorcycle, and he and his wife wanted to do that, but instead they had a Winnebago, which wasn't quite the same. You don't quite feel the breeze in your hair like you do on a Harley, but anyway, the point was he had been this real button-down, play-by-the-rules guy, but they had X amount of money that they took out of savings, and they were just going to get in this Winnebago and see where the day took them, and you know they were going to discover their freedom. And so their first stop is Las Vegas, and while he's asleep in the room, she gets the bug to take their nest egg down to the roulette table, and she blows their entire fortune in one night. And it's sad, but it's hysterically funny. It's a comedy because the way they're arguing about, because even she says the word nest egg, and he says, no, you're not even allowed to say that phrase because you've ruined everything. Don't say nest, don't say egg. Don't put them together or separate. You're not even allowed to eat eggs. Like if we go to breakfast, no eggs for you. It was like that. That's because that's in his mind. Well, everything's ruined. Our big plan is totally ruined. And to a degree, I can understand. You know what it's like when you think, well, we're going to go on this trip. We got X amount of money to spend, and then something happens to that money, and you think, well, we may not have that trip. So when he says, I'm doing a new thing, you know what I want you to think of? I want you to think of Jesus asking the disciples if they'd caught any fish. And they said, no, we've been fishing all night, and I haven't caught anything. And Jesus says, put the nets on the other side of the boat. It's a very powerful concept because he doesn't say, go to another part of the lake where the fish may be biting. He says, right where you are. You just need a new thought. You need a new approach. You need a paradigm shift. The very fact that he did not tell them to change locations. And I see that all through the scriptures. Even there was another place where the disciples said they had to pay their taxes. And Jesus says, well, he tells them to look for money in a fish's mouth. Which the way I look at that is they were fishermen. Even though you don't think of you're going to find money in a fish's mouth, the point is, it was an innovative way to tap into abundance from an area they were already familiar with. You understand? Like, I don't want to ruin your hopes and dreams, but if any of you today are thinking, you know, all I need is $50 million, I'm going to become an NFL quarterback. Because those guys, I'm going to get a contract like that. I don't want to ruin your dream, but no, you're not. If you haven't been playing football up to this point, you're not. That's why when you're raising your children and tell them they can do anything, balance that with, because there's some things that you can't just do anything. Like I'm not saying if you're 7 feet tall, you're automatically going to be an NBA player, but it's likely you already have a physical advantage. There have been some short people who have made it in the NBA, but very few. So there are some things that are just sort of like, all right. But then there are other people who come in and break the mold, and they're the first one to do the 4-minute mile when people say it couldn't be done, that sort of thing. What I want to say to you today is the flow of abundance is right where you are. Sometimes you just have to rethink a situation. If you've been given talents and gifts and abilities, that is a way for you to tap into abundance, whatever your skills are. And every skill is valid. I know I've said this to you before, but it happened again this weekend. I don't think you'll mind me saying this. Ken's worked at where he works for, 18 years? Something like that. Coming up on 19 years. And a lot of times from the office, that somebody will call him, one of the guys that's on call or they're doing, fixing something. They'll call him, especially this one particular building that he knows very well. And I've never, ever heard him say, I don't know. He'll always say something like I can't believe he'll be like, all right, you have to climb up on the roof, and there's a button behind a door that seems like it's not going to open, but you have to push it, and it will open, and then do you see that first button? And the guy will be like, I can hear the other guy saying, yeah, okay, so I'll hit that button. And then you can't believe how complex it is. See, for me, that would be, there's so many directions to give. I would just say, I'm going to just drive out there and do it myself. There's no way I can explain this to you. He always knows. It's like, you'll turn around 3 times and you'll say a magic word. They'll call somebody from the CIA, and a guy will come in on a helicopter and give you a password, and then a troll comes out from under a bridge and asks you a riddle. Like, how does he know all that stuff? He walked this guy through. I'm not exaggerating. The troll wasn't there, but it was just that. It was one of the chefs there, and he knew exactly where to tell them. I said, that's amazing that you know all that. He said, well, I know that building. I said, I know, but that's crazy that you know it down to that detail. If there's something that you do that's in your purview, your wheelhouse, it doesn't seem that surprising to you. You know what I mean? Because you can do it. Several years back, I said to him, I said, man, I wish there was a socket on this wall right here, because I'd like to put a table with a lamp on it. I'm telling you, within 2 hours, there was a usable socket. Like, I was plugging a lamp. I said, if my life depended on it, I wouldn't know how to do that. That's an incredible talent. And I respect, especially people who don't have talent, who have talents in areas I don't have. Like, if you can do what I do, I'm like, yeah, I know a lot of people can do what I do. And I'm not selling it short. I'm just saying, it's like, that's what you do. I could ask Chandra to come up here and sing. She I'm not going to today, but I could call on her, and she'll get up and do some crazy, amazing thing that's completely impromptu. And other people will be like, blah, 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 blah. How does she do that? Well, that's what she does. So you have to find what is your area, but sometimes you have to rethink it. I'm doing a new thing. Now it will spring forth. Do you not perceive it? The new thing is going to spring forth whether you perceive it or not. The question is, do you perceive? Do you perceive how to connect with the flow? And honestly, this is how I'm seeing it in my spirit today. I'm not giving you 7 steps to find the flow. What I want to say to you is remove all the obstructions to it. If you'll just tear down all the dams, the river will flow. If you'll remove all the debris that's stopping up the flow, it's a natural flow. We're supposed to be healthy and prosperous. And we are. I mean, it's like you shouldn't be shocked that you have the gift of health. You should be grateful for it, but health is what is the natural state of things. Prosperity is the natural state of things. Thank you. When Adam and Eve are put in the garden, whether that happened literally or figuratively, the fact is, yes, they were given orders to maintain it, to dress it, but the abundance was there. There was never any worry like what if these trees don't produce after their own kind. No, that law was already there, and that's what I want to get across to all of us, because we all have developed in different ways these little defense mechanisms. Like even when I'm having my left eye done on Friday, and then I have my right eye done 2 weeks from that day. And they were showing me, she says, now you've met your deductible. these are the lenses, because they put lenses, new lenses in your eyes. Some of you have had it done. And they said, this is what's covered by your insurance. Here's what's not covered if you'd like to get these. And they're real expensive. I said, is that per eye? And she said, yeah. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. And it's a weird old habit that kicks in. My first thought was, do you finance these? Can you work out it? And she said, yeah, you can do it. You can, there's like a credit card you have to apply for. And when she said credit card you have to apply for, I thought, I don't want to do that. And my next thought was, you have this money. It's not like you don't have it. I'm not going to be out under the underpass with a sign today saying, we'll work for high-def lenses. I do have it. And I don't have to take those. I could take the kind of mid-range ones that are covered by insurance. But these sound really cool. They give you X-ray vision and all this kind of stuff. I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm only going in one time. So my next thought is, what? That's like an old ideology. Why am I saying I don't think I have a poverty mentality? Why would that immediately kick in? Like, y'all know what it's like. How much is it? All right, here's $5 on it. Well, that's going to take you a long time. But that's an old habit. Do you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I'm just going to put $10 in my tank, and you've got money to fill up your whole tank. But it's an old school mentality of scarcity. If I spend it all on this, I won't have any left down the road. And if you do that, that means you don't believe the flow is real. You have to believe there's more where that came from. And so when I say move the obstructions, you have to remove old mindsets that you got from parents who went through the depression that raised you, that put those things in you about waste not, want not. And that's, like, I remember when my grandmother passed, they were, the daughters and daughters-in-law were going through her stuff. And, my grandfather did really well. I mean, for a Pentecostal preacher, this is back in the 40s. The church bought him a Cadillac, and it was very unusual for Pentecostal churches. But he was like an official in his denomination, so they were kind of like, sort in that world, they were kind of like celebrities. And by the time my mom and her twin brother were born, they were raised by a housekeeper, and which is one reason. And nothing against my mom, is one reason why she didn't develop domestic skills. Her older sisters were born at a time where they had to learn how to cook. When mom came along, there was a lady doing all that, and sometimes it keeps you from rising to the occasion. But the point is, looking through my grandmother's cabinets, there was bone china in there. If you know what bone, it's like the finest there is. There was real silver. And next to it was a stack of, anytime they'd ever been through a fast food place, there were Burger King cups, like, stacked up that high. Like, why you've got all this you have all this crystal, you got all this nice stuff, but you're also saving. And I realized, well, that's the world she came from. You don't throw it away. I'm not saying she was a hoarder, but you know what I mean. It's like that's old school, and it really comes from it comes from if not a poverty mentality, at least a fear that there's not going to be enough. Now, look, I'm not saying you should just go out and spend all your money today and go, Bishop said I'm in the flow. Woohoo! I'm going to blow it all. Like, how much more? Let's liquidate it all because we're in the flow. No, that's ridiculous. What I am saying is if you want something, if something feels right for you, and that also comes down to a very. I'm not talking to you, Siri. Why would Siri think I'm at? I bind that devil. for a lot of people, what it really comes down to is a sense of unworthiness. I don't deserve this. Have you ever noticed? Look, I'm happy to get a bargain as much as the next person. But have you ever done this before where somebody says, I really like that shirt, and your first instinct is, well, it was marked down. Like you nearly want to justify it. I didn't pay full price for it. Well, why does that even matter? Where does that go? Do you understand what I'm saying? Those are old patterns that you've been taught to say, let me justify why I have this. Let me tell, even quite frankly this year, because if I'm going to put up a tree, it's going to be a nice tree. And a nice tree is not cheap. And it would have been easy this Christmas just to say, you know what, maybe I'm not going to put up some little Charlie Brown sad tree, like I'm not going to do that. And then we saw this one, and I looked at the tag on it, and I said, it's a little more than I wanted to spend. Ken says, I'll split it with you. I said, okay, well, that makes it a little different. And he did. Last night I saw that Venmo coming in. I'm going, come on, Jesus. That's a man of his word. But this morning when I got up and plugged it in, I thought, that ain't no ghetto tree, baby. And it just made me feel prosperous. You know what I mean? Like if we hadn't put up one this year, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but it would have also been kind of, I don't know. It was just, I don't like what the message it would be conveying to me. Do you understand? And again, I'm not saying, it's not like it's gold plated. If you're thinking, dear God, what did they spend on that tree? That's not the point. It wasn't like that. Somebody asked me, where'd you get the tree? I'm like, don't be, tell you where I got my tree. Don't be all up in my business. We scouted it out. You go find your own. But the point is, there are patterns that you've developed that come from ancestors, that come from history, where you think, like I've said this to you for years, let me say it again. There's a difference between saying we can't afford it or saying it's not wisdom for us to purchase it at this time. Both things convey the message without one of them self-sabotaging. Because every time you say we can't, I don't even want to say it again, we can't A-F-F-O-R-D it automatically reinforces this mindset of lack, of scarcity. If you say it's not wisdom for us to purchase it at this time, that just means you're guiding your affairs with discretion. That's not a poverty statement. That's like we'll get it. We're getting it later, but we're gonna wait a little bit. And to me, that's, if anything, prophesying to your future. It's saying, well, we're not going to get it yet, but we will. I'm going to get one of those. And if it's that important to me, I'll get it now. But all of these obstructions to the flow, like feelings of unworthiness, I don't deserve it. There's other people in the world who have needs. Let me tell you something. I'm all about helping other people, but you can't save the whole world. I don't know if you ever saw Schindler's List, but at the end of it, because he saved X amount of Jews from being exterminated in the Holocaust. And at the end of it, somebody was thanking him for what he had done. And his first response was, I could have done so much more. He said, I could have sold this wedding band. It's kind of a crazy way to think, because you can't fix everybody. You can't save everybody. And sometimes if you see other people who are not doing well, it does affect the way that you feel about your own abundance, manifesting your own prosperity. And I will grant you this. You know, this summer when I was watching billionaires competing with who was going to make it to space for 10 minutes. And I'm watching on TV, and out my window I can see somebody literally living on the street. I think that's an extreme disparity. That is problematic. I get that. But also, if you do something nice for yourself, you've got to love yourself enough that once in a while you've got to say, I'm doing this for me. Because I need this. I need this. This is for my own well-being. And baby, if you've worked hard for your money and you've been, Donna Summer was right. If she works hard for the money, you better treat her right. And if you work hard for the money, you got to treat yourself right. And once in a while, you just need to say, this is what I'm buying. I wish somebody would say something about it. Because I didn't ask you for any money for it. So you don't need to have an opinion about it. If this is what I wanted to do for me or for mine or for my family, then I'm going to do it. And you just need to say, oh, that's real pretty. That's all you need to say. You don't need to have an opinion about it at all. Like I remember, I'm not throwing my dad under the bus. This is how he was raised. But I remember I was a child of television, especially not having siblings. Let's just say I watched a lot of TV. And we didn't have color TV. This would have been like the mid-'60s. And my cousin did have a color TV, and I was just going over to this house and get to watch cartoons and seeing Batman for the first time. Like, oh, wow, I didn't know the penguin's hat was that color. It was just like a whole, when you hadn't seen color, it was a whole thing. Now color TV doesn't sound that big a deal, but oh, sweet Jesus in the morning. And I remember I was 8 years old, maybe 8 or 9, and Dad came home to our parsonage with this Zenith color TV. It wasn't that big. It was the old school kind where it had a tint button and a hue button. You could make everybody purple or you could make everybody green. And it doesn't, I'm getting heart palpitations just thinking about it now. When he rolled that thing in, it was like, I couldn't have been more excited if it had been, I wouldn't even know what a Lamborghini is. But a color TV, I can watch Saturday morning cartoons in color. And before we even turned it on, it was, now Jim Earl, do not tell anybody in the church we got this. Because we don't want anybody to think we're too wealthy. And I'm looking around at our parsonage like, I don't think anybody's going to think that. I think we're pretty safe on that score. But it automatically attached a sense of shame with this thing. Instead of being excited. And he had a valid point. I guess he's worried about me bragging about it. But I was excited about it. And by that time, most of my friends had color TV. It wasn't like we were the first person on our block. It's not like it had never been heard of before. But just automatically, something about it felt naughty. It felt, and not in a good way. It was like, I guess we shouldn't enjoy this too much. And again, I'm not blaming him. That's how he was raised. It was always, we don't want anybody to think we're doing too good because they might misunderstand. And, I never raised my kids with that at all. They're completely unfamiliar to that. And because, none of them are millionaires, but they're all four of them entrepreneurs. They've all figured out their own path. Not one of them has ever asked me for money. They're always, they figured out a way to create a platform for themselves. And I'm like, well, that's what y'all do. Now I've offended BJ. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm sorry. It wasn't a big color TV, BJ. It was kind of small. No, he's got to take his parents to the airport, I know. But do you understand what I'm saying? There are these little obstructions that you build up in your thinking over the years that can be stopping the flow of abundance. I know for myself, it's easy for me to say something sarcastic or funny or passive aggressive to make a point about money. And I don't like doing that because it works against the flow. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but there's ways that you can make a joke about your appearance that a little bit of that is charming and self-deprecating. Too much of it begins to affect your self-esteem. And you have to know how to not put that out there. Not to put that out in the universe, because the energy you put out is the energy you get back. Let me show you this next quote by Sarah Brethnock. Says, any self-prompt that reminds you to focus on flow, not ebb, contributes to your greater sense of abundance. I love this. She's kind of saying the same thing I'm saying, just on the other side of it. She's saying anything that speaks to your abundance is good for you to hear yourself say it. Again, I'm not saying to ignore your bills or live above your means or run up your credit cards. I'm not telling you to do any of that. What I'm saying is, don't snare yourself with the words of your own mouth. Like, let's say hypothetically, maybe you don't have as much cash flow this Christmas as you would like. You don't have to tell everybody that constantly. You don't have to preface everything was, we don't have a lot of money to work with this year, so we're not going to give gifts. You don't need to. Most people aren't expected to give from you anyway. Or just say it a different way. Just say we're a little more pared down this year. You don't need to. You don't make yourself out to be destitute just to say to people, maybe not expect such what I gave you last year. Do you understand? There's an elegance to saying a thing a certain way where you can still get your message across without snaring yourself and stopping up your flow of abundance. Abundance wants to flow into your life. God wants to bless you. Psalm 35 talks about the God who takes pleasure in the prosperity of his servant. God wants you to do well. I mean, there have been times in years past that I actually prayed this way. I would say, all right, if you don't give me some kind of breakthrough in this area, this is going to reflect on you. Because I told everybody this stuff works. And if it doesn't work for me, I'm going to look fine, but you're going to look bad. I'm just telling you. Where did you get that from? I got it from Moses. Remember Moses? He prayed that way one time when he was interceding. He said, if you don't deliver these people, it's going to be a reflection on you. All these other nations are going to say he couldn't deliver his own people. I'm like, I like it. So I'm like, God, it's not that I care about the prosperity. But if you don't bless me, show me off a little bit, you're going to look bad. I don't want you to look bad. When I say he's a good God, I want everybody to say, well, he obviously is. Yes, he is. And so, again, I mean, even in my own life, I said we're doing everything a little. It's just less this year. No, that's not right. It's not less. It's we usually go to New York every year. This year, he's on call the week that we normally go because we like going to this thing at the cathedral, St. Patrick's Cathedral. And Dominic, my friend from college, he ain't going to be there. We usually connect with him. It was just, the planets just weren't lining up this year. And I thought, you know what? It's just as well because I'm going to be spending this money on my eyes. And doesn't mean we could. It's not like I'm saying we wanted to go this year, but I had surgery. No, it's not like that at all. But, enough things happen that you think, I think we can set this one out this year. It's fine, and it will blink, and it'll be next year, and everything will be fine. But it's like I don't feel, the decision not to go didn't make me feel poor. It just felt like, well, it's not like we haven't been a lot of times, and if we'll sit this one out, it's fine. And that's why when Dominic texted us last week, he said, are y'all coming to New York? I said, no, I've got cataract surgery on the 1st and the 15th, and he's on call the week we normally come. And he said, well, I'm going to be in Florida anyway. I said, well, it's just as well. We'll see him. He said, I may come to Atlanta in 24. I said, yeah, it'd be great. Do that. And it's like there was no negative exchange. Sometimes when you're concerned about a situation, it's easy to say things to let people know that things are what they are. You know? Totally. That's my next point. Don't tell me that. No, but it's right, and it's like people putting they're putting their weird mojo on you, like you can't. Oh, that's good. You're getting to enjoy it. We couldn't go this year. Like, no, don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. Like, I didn't steal money from you. You know what I mean? It's like that's. I completely agree. I completely agree. That's why even, I'm sure you deal with a lot of panhandlers and stuff, that a week doesn't go by that I don't have somebody approach me. And so what I will say, if somebody says they're hungry, I'll always get you something to eat. If people just ask for money, I'll say, I can't do that, but I'll do this. I can, there's always some, and then sometimes I'm like, no, I can't do anything else today. And then some days, like one night we had walked to dinner, and we had been approached by so many people asking for money. I said, if one more person asks me for money tonight, I'm going to say something. Next thing I know, this homeless guy with no legs comes wheeling up, and I thought, oh, crap. How am I going to tell the legless guy? Of course, I got cash on me. Here you go. I'm like, dude. But I also know, I'm not saying homelessness isn't real, but I also know, like I remember one year we were in New York. We're walking through Times Square, and Times Square is like an antbed. I mean, it's just thousands of people on top of each other. And there's street performers that are out, doing all kind of stuff. So he never even saw this guy. We were walking through, looking at stuff, and I see this guy start to take his clothes off, and I thought, what's he doing? He's about to do honestly, I don't think he's doing a striptease. I thought he was about to do like a street performance, because that you'll see that sometimes people will take off their stuff and they'll start tumbling and whatever. This guy, and it's cold outside, he took off his shoes and socks, and I thought, okay, it's really cold to be barefoot, and he made eye contact with me when he did it. He nearly kind of strips down and takes his box where he's collecting money and sits down and looks really pitiful. And I thought, and people started giving him money immediately because he was barefoot. And I thought, he's got shoes and socks, they're right over there. I'm not saying he doesn't have a problem, but I thought, you really know how to work it. And he saw me see him, because I'm thinking, why are you taking your clothes off? And he was taking his clothes off to make him look worse than he actually was. And it worked. People just, I thought, dude, you've been doing this for a minute. Because all these other guys were sitting out there with shoes and socks on. They weren't getting anything. He was getting everything. People like, we got to buy him some shoes. Like, he's got shoes. I'm bringing them over. Here's your shoes, buddy. I think you forgot. But, I can't fault him, because I've not to that extreme. But I know what it's like when, didn't have the flow and said something about it, and think, I don't ever want to I never want to present myself in a way that makes, that's why, listen, this is why I never say anything, I don't ever say anything about, like, if somebody says something mean to me or writes me a letter, I don't even post about it, because the last time I did this years ago, people were posting things like, don't don't let it get you down, Bishop. You're still the man. They were saying all this kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, I'm not the guy you feel sorry for. Oh, hell no. Like, I just took that off. Like, no. Like, and I thought, why would I even want somebody to know that I got some mean letter from a religious bigot who was a Pharisee? Why do I even care? Why am I energizing that? And as I've told you many times before, when I stopped bleeding, I stopped attracting the sharks. But I didn't. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't like when people were saying things like, hang in there. I'm like, oh, no. I'm not the guy you feel sorry for. No. And sometimes you need a little reality check. I've used this analogy before, but if you ever watched Friends, you remember the character Janice that would say, oh, my God. And she was like this super negative, whiny character that nobody could stand. So in one of the arcs of stories, Ross, in between his divorces, ends up somehow dating Janice. And he's going through this real terrible time of self-pity about how sad his life is, and his wife left him, and all kind of stuff. And they're sitting in the coffee shop there, and Janice says, Ross, I got to say something to you. And he goes, what? She goes, I'm going to have to break it off. And he says, why? She goes, well, you're so negative. And it was like, it's so funny because he has this epiphany. He says, wait a minute. What? He said, you, Janice, are telling me that I'm negative? And she goes, are you okay? And he goes, I am now. It was like, it's like, oh my God, have I devolved to that point that Janice is the woman who invented whining, is telling me I'm too whiny? And it was like, it was a wake-up call for him. He's like, oh, I gotta get it together. And so anyway, let me show you this next, this is Deepak Chopra quote. It says, the universe operates through dynamic exchange. Giving and receiving are different aspects of the flow of energy in the universe, and in our willingness to give that which we seek, we keep the abundance of the universe circulating in our lives. Now that comes back to the whole concept of giving and receiving. This seems like a small thing, but it was meaningful to me in ways I don't know how to explain to you. But when I had my cousin LaDonna here the other day, I compensated her. I gave her, she didn't ask for that, but I gave, because she's a guest. When I've had Eddie sing before, he said, don't pay me, so I consider him family. But I had her come in, so I gave her something. And I never look at this, but Avery sent me a thing where she had taken the money and tithed it. She won't tell you this, but Chandra did the same thing last time she was here. I don't want to rob your blessing. But I said, I'd like to have you, but I got to wait a minute till I can pay you something. And so when I paid her, they circulated it back. It seems like a small thing, but it's the flow. It's like, okay, I honored your gift. You honored it back. It's keeping the energy going in the river. There was something, Eddie sent me an offering a month or so ago. And I texted him, I said, what's this for? And he wrote back, he said, you're worth every penny. And I can't tell you how much I needed to hear that day. It was like it's like it changed the energy in a situation I was having at the time, and I can say it now, with finances. And because it wasn't like I was thinking, I wish Eddie would send me something today. I wasn't thinking that. He surprised me, because I even said, what in the world? What's this for? Well, I know. I was surprised. I was like, what's this about? He said, you're worth every penny. And I'm driving in my car, and I thought, I am worth every penny. It was like it was a paradigm shift. That's why I like that Chopra is saying this about the flow. The flow is not just for you to receive it and it become a stagnant pool in your experience. You're not supposed to be the Dead Sea. You're supposed to receive the flow and continue the flow. You're supposed to pass it on, even if it's a small thing. I don't do it all the time, and it's not always done to me, but it's a thing in Starbucks where sometimes people will pay something forward. It's just a cup of coffee, but it's just psychologically when you get up to the counter and they say, oh, yeah, the person said to pay it forward. And it's like, and you know what, whenever happens to me, my first instinct is, I got to do the same thing. Of course, sometimes I wait to see how many people are walking in with this person. Somebody walks in, they got an order for their entire office. Like, oh, look. But even if it was, if I said pay it forward, like, all right, fine. And that's when you hear the phrase, it's more blessed to give than to receive, that's what that really means. But you can't be a giver if you're not a receiver. So if you're going to be a giver, you've got to let people give to you. You have to. You have to say, all right, well, this is how this system works. I'm a channel in the flow of abundance that's making sure all the area gets watered. Amen? And then let me finish this up. This is Abraham. Says, when people ask us, let me tell you why I wanted to end on this. When people ask us how long does it take for something to manifest, we say it takes as long as it takes you to release the resistance. You're not praying for the river, you're removing the obstacles. Once you remove the obstacles, the river will flow on its own. Could be 30 years, could be 40 years, could be 50 years, could be a week, could be tomorrow afternoon. I love the way this is phrased. Because what I'm saying to you, I can't promise you that you can hear this sermon and say, I now officially remove all obstacles, and then you go win the lottery this afternoon. Like, Bishop, that was a on-time word. I won the lottery. But you could have a new thing that springs forth, and you perceive it, and you rethink a situation, and it can make all the difference in the world. 2024 could be your most prosperous year you've ever had in your entire life. Now you say, well, I don't know how that. Well, that's beside the point. It actually is what I'm talking about. The fact that you don't know that means it could be. You don't know. What was I seeing? Who was it just this week? You know how I was explaining this in the car to him yesterday because we were listening to an Elvis Presley song, and he said, will Lisa Marie's children get paid for this? I said, not unless he's the writer, unless there's something in their contract, some mechanical royalty, but generally the payment goes to the writer. The reason Mariah Carey's made so much money is those are her original songs that she's written. She owns them. I said, but there are some publishing things where their family could get. It just depends on the. I don't. Do you understand publishing? I don't fully understand it. But anyway, once in a while, like for instance, the guy back in the 50s that wrote the song "Unforgettable" that Nat King Cole recorded. He made money, initially, and it became a standard in the American songbook. But then years later, Natalie Cole re-recorded it with, where she sang the duet with her father who had passed on. And this guy, I know what it was. I know what I'm thinking of. It was Tracy Chapman. Because a country singer, she's the first black artist to win a country music award for writing a song. She wrote that song years ago, I've Got a Fast Car. And it was successful. But Luke Combs, this country artist, covered it, and she won Song of the Year. I'm sure I guarantee you, the only thing I ever remember out of Tracy Chapman was that song. I don't remember anything else than that song. I guarantee you, Tracy Chapman last year did not think, I hope I'm going to win a Grammy from the country music. Yeah, or not the Grammy, but the country music award. But it was out there. It was in her purview. It came from her talent, but it got picked up later. You know when what's his name? Hammer. When he did you guess by the when he did Can't Touch This, it was the bass line from Super Freak by Rick James. Rick James, who now has passed on, Rick James made $50 million off of Can't Touch This. What's his name? I can't think of his name. MC Hammer. I just said his name. Anyway, what I'm saying is those are cases of somebody having already done something in the flow, but then something new sprang forth that they weren't expecting. Maybe Oprah will get a copy of one of my books. Yes.
It's interesting you said that because one of the songs that I had written for the SOS band is a rapper by the name of Breezy that's getting ready to do one of the songs that I wrote with this guy. That's, yeah.
That was
I never thought
sometime
would
back,
happen.
right?
Yeah, that was way in the SOS band. That was like 80s or something like that.
That's precisely my point. That's the flow. It's like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. That's why you got, when that Isaiah 43 says, behold, I do a new thing, will you not perceive it? Sometimes you think, well, that's all I'm going to get out of that. You don't know that. There's people rediscovering stuff all the time, and somebody who wrote it years ago makes all this money that they weren't expecting because it came in later. Don't ever curse your stuff. Like, sometimes I make jokes about how much inventory I have from my books, left over and think I should joke about that. There might be a gold mine in those books. Who knows? Somebody could call me and say, I want to buy the rest of your inventory. Who knows? I could get $1 million for it in the next few weeks. And my point is, you have to believe, not in pipe dreams, but you have to keep the channel open for the abundance to flow. Because if you say, I don't see how everything's gonna work, you're automatically cutting yourself off from the flow. Exactly. Where he's saying, do the maintenance. Guarding your heart means make sure that the obstructions aren't there that's keeping the flow from moving. It's not, people waste so much time. I'm not saying prayer is a waste of time, but you pray and pray and pray for abundance to flow, and the abundance is already there. When Jesus said, he gave the parable of the sower sows the word, and the word was the same in all of those scenarios. There was one where the plant grew up quickly and had no root in it, it died away. And Jesus said, if you can understand this parable, you can understand all the parables. Because the produce had nothing, the seed was the same for everybody. It did have something to do with the seed, but the way it manifested in each of these scenarios was because of the quality of the soil. In other words, he says, remove the, you know what I'm talking about. It's in Mark chapter 4 where he says there were thorns, there were different obstructions, things. It's all about maintenance, guarding your heart. Make sure, like when you get up in the morning, just say, I know there's flow out there. The scripture says, give and men shall give into your bosom, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And I know I've given, I've put money out there, so it could come from me. I'm not being opportunistic, but I'm being open to say it could come from anywhere that I'm not expecting. That's why of course, I appreciated Eddie's gift, but it was the unexpectedness of it. It was like, what is this for? And it was like, well, that's a new thing that sprang forth. And that's possible for everybody. You can say, well, that's easy for you, Bishop, because people are going to give to you. No, people will give to you too. But if you're constantly repelling the blessings, blocking the blessings, this flood is trying to come to you all the time. When's it going to be removed? It could be at any time. And that's why it says it could be tomorrow afternoon. You don't know. I mean, we're still quite a few days away from Christmas. This may be the most abundantly supplied Christmas you've ever had. 2024 could be the happiest new year you've ever had. There might be a whole new career for you in the new year that you don't even know exists right now. Think about how many careers they're coming up with all the time that wouldn't have even existed 10 years ago. We're so used to new technology coming in all the time, we don't realize how amazing it is. You don't know. There might be some area. Who knows? I mean, I think about what he knows about buildings. Who knows? Joe Biden might call him this afternoon. I hear you. Can you look at something in the White House? You don't know. And as crazy as it sounds, you have to sometimes just build yourself up on all of that, like raise up that vibration. That's why I started with that Wayne Dyer quote. Abundance is something we tune into. Is there destruction in the world? Yes. Is there poverty in the world? Yes. Does that mean you have to be poor? No. And if anything, if you're poor and they're poor, you can't be a blessing to anybody. If you say, I felt bad about this guy didn't have anything, so I gave all my stuff away. Well, that doesn't help either one of us. You remember even the story of the talents? You know, the guy who was given the least amount, he didn't squander it. He said, I dug a hole in the ground, I put it in there, and it says that the master was furious with him. He said, why didn't you at least make it work? Why didn't you at least invest it and let it accrue some interest? You know, you would think, well, he didn't run off with it, and that didn't help the situation.
Old and I've lived this life. Stinginess never blessed anybody.
Exactly.
And I've known stingy people in my life.
Exactly.
They never got a blessing from being stingy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People say a penny saved is a penny earned. Not necessarily. You know what I mean? I mean, not necessarily. So I want to encourage you, of course, you pay your bills, do all your stuff. But, man, if you want to buy that lottery ticket, buy it. If you want to believe something's possible, believe it. If you want to put that energy out there, I'm telling you, it couldn't hurt. What's it going to hurt just to say, this is going to be my most blessed Christmas ever, so that I am blessed to be a blessing. Did you get anything out of this today? Let's all stand, please. All rise. I speak a blessing of you to each one of you, those of you listening wherever you are, that you have a paradigm shift to know how to remove the obstacles. And I speak to every seed you've ever sown and say that all of the 100-fold return makes its way to you. That everybody that's trying to find you to give into your bosom finds you. That all the money that's out there that's owed you, it comes back to you. That God does exceeding abundantly above all you can ask or think, according to the power that works in you, according to the river of abundance that flows in you. METRON is blessed. I'm blessed. You're blessed. We're blessed. We're all blessed. There's more than enough to go around. We are thoroughly furnished unto every good work. We prosper and are in health, even as our souls prosper. We call it done in Jesus' name. Amen. Please remain standing. And if you can run the outro, please.
Contributing to METRON is quick and easy. You can give any time using any smartphone. Text the amount you'd like to donate, 404-620-5044.
You will then receive a notification that you successfully completed your donation. You may also visit Bishinthenow.com and click the support tab to give there as well. When you contribute to METRON, you're also donating to the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment into METRON.
If you have a check, make it to JESM. If you have cash, just pay it forward. Did you get anything out of this today? Anybody else want to say anything that you didn't get a chance? All hearts clear? Inez?
You know, where I work, I get a little money together and I give people gifts and whatnot. Then all of a sudden I was working one year. One girl went in the back and she gave her some money and said, take it to this person. And she brought it up to me. I said, man, what the hell? But it's all right, Jesus. I'm going to pass it on. I'm going to keep it going. So that's what I do, whatever I can.
But it might have just been for you to even enjoy your own self.
I did bless other people, I kept it and whatever. Then I bought somebody else something, and then it goes around.
Well,
There's a guy that I met in Ghana, and he used to help me. And he asked me, he said, why do you get money from? I said, oh, because a lot of times people think when something happened, maybe your parents working in the government, and you run away to steal the money from the country or something like that. So I said, my cousin played professional football in Europe. And he said, who's your cousin? I called my cousin's name, and he said, wow, I love your cousin. Him and I said became friends. So I introduced him to a lady. When I came to the United States, he played the DV. He sent it to this lady that I introduced him to. And the lady made it for him, and he won the DV. And then when he came to America, I took him to Agnes Scott College, where I used to work to, and hire him over there.
look at God.
Yes, always.
All right. We'll have, Fred.
I don't know if you realize it, but your eye surgeon, Ken working, y'all not going. That's all part of your flow. That was your flow right now. Flow don't always mean something more. It means flowing in what's happening right now. You should be going down the river.
Yes.
I completely agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm so excited about being able to see better. As much as I love, because I do love me some New York at Christmas, but I couldn't be any more excited than I am. Like driving over today, I thought, next Sunday, I'll be able to see. See, we have the largest crowd we've ever had here today. I don't know any better because I can't see.
Say about all this is when you're at your brokest with hardly nothing, that's where gratitude is the most important.
Tell me.
When you're at your, it's easy to have all this gratitude and this when you got
When you got
put
stuff
money
going
in the
on.
bank,
Yeah, that's right.
you got a
That's
warm
right.
fire going
That's
in
right.
your
It's
bills.
good to say that, then.
Oh yeah, I'm working on this gratitude.
It
But when
reminds
you're at
me-
your brokest,
That scripture in Habakkuk 3 where he says, though the fig tree does not blossom, he says everywhere he looked on his farm, the cattle was cut off from the stall. There was nothing. And he says, yet I will praise him. That's when you look at it like this. In the natural, I have no reason to be grateful. Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely. All right, we're going to end it on that one. God bless you. Go in peace. See you next Sunday.